What's up, Tweener heads? Welcome back to another Tweener head tennis video today here on the channel. And before we start this video, I want to give a huge shout out to Essential Tennis. He really didn't have to do that for my channel. We have a lot of new subscribers here on the channel, so welcome. Welcome to the Tweener head tennis channel. I really hope you guys do stick around and follow me on my tennis journey and check out my videos and follow us along with interviews, match play, anything. We have it all, really. So I really appreciate Essential Tennis for doing that. Ian, you really didn't have to do that, but thank you so much. It really means a lot for the channel. So welcome to the new subscribers. I really appreciate you guys joining the Tweener Head Tennis family. It means a lot for you guys. So I hope you guys get to stick around. And if you aren't subscribed, consider subscribing to this channel. We do a lot here, and I hope you guys do enjoy this kind of content that we do. But for today, we have a very special video for you guys. We have Gil Gross back on the channel from Monday Match Analysis. We talk about the big three, the next guy up to win a slam, the best young star on the rise, who's going to have the best 2021 season, who's going to finish number one, and much more along those lines. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, make sure you leave a big like on this video, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. Hope you guys enjoy this video. See you soon. Thanks, guys. Welcome back, Tweener Heads. Welcome back to another video with our very special guest, Gil Gross, with a very special video for you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Gil, you're in a different environment today.
Yeah, you said it, man. Vacation mode, 5 o'clock shadow. I'm sorry I couldn't bring you a bookshelf behind me because I know, that would give me a lot of credibility. But instead, I'm giving you just a little artwork and maybe. I hope that's all right.
No, it's totally fine. I like the artwork. Do you know the name of the painting behind you?
No clue. No.
What would you name it if you could?
Does all artwork have? I'm aware of this.
You never really know until you have to dissect it for what it really is, and it's just paint.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, we have a very special video for you guys. We had David on our last episode to talk about WTA predictions. Today, we have Gil, who's doing ATP predictions with us today. And we have a lot to talk about in terms of what we think the 2021 season is going to have, because this is the first time that we are going to be having tennis during a pandemic that everyone's prepared for, I should say. Because it seems like this is not going to go away anytime soon, and a lot of tournaments are going to be in the Middle East or on the other side of the world. Very limited to the U.S.
Yeah, well, what's going to be really, really interesting is Australia, because they've gotten their cases to such a low number that it might feel kind of normal. And it might be strange kind of toggling between these different environments who are all going to be in different places. It's just, you might go from a packed Rod Laver arena. I'm not quite sure that that packed is going to be an accurate word, but I know that there's going to be at least a substantial amount of fans. You might go from that, and now we hit clay court season, or we go to Miami, and it might be a completely different story. I mean, even within the United States, California is not in a place to hold a tournament because of who their governor is, and Florida isn't a hold a tournament because of who that state's governor is. So it's really, really strange.
It also seems like since the U.S. is a much bigger country than countries in Europe you'll have one country that every tournament there, like in France or Germany, they'll all have the same guidelines. But within the U.S., it's going to be, like you said, like California won't hold anything, but some places in Florida will, Texas will. All those different governing bodies that have a voice with what sports are going to be held. I know I'm a big Giants fan, and the Giants beat the Cowboys in a stadium that had people in it. There was a headliner boxing match for Ryan Garcia that had people in it. But when it comes to tennis, we don't really know. So 2021 is going to be a very interesting time.
You said 2021 is going to be an interesting one, and yeah, it will be, and hopefully by the end of 2021, we're going to have legitimate progress made, in terms of the masses with the vaccine.
Yes, of course. So let's get straight into these questions I have for you, Gil, because we're going to ease into some of the questions instead of going straight off the back who's going to be the number one by the end of this year. But I think the first one we have to start with deals with the United States and U.S. players, because last year we saw a lot of women break out. We had Kenin, Jennifer Brady, Anna Samova played a lot, Coco Gauff, especially Serena Williams. But on the men's side, I wanted to ask you, will an American make the finals of a Grand Slam, or is he more likely to win an American to win one or more ATP level titles?
I definitely can't see anyone in a slam final from the United States. Uh, Isner is really at the tail end. He's on the decline, as is a Sam Querrey. I think the next crop with Fritz and Tiafoe, they're kind of an Opelka. They're kind of the now gen of American tennis, and then you have Nakashima and JJ Wolf, who are the younger crop that I think maybe in the case of Nakashima shows even more promise. But out of all of those guys, there's no one who I'm really confident in even winning a title. Now, with that being said, you do have some tournaments like the New York Open, traditionally Delray Beach, where it is a very American heavy draw. I'm not saying an American man won't win a title all year, but there's no one who I'm circling as someone who I'm really confident is going to break into the top 20. I think Taylor Fritz has really maximized his potential. I like what I'm seeing from him. He's serving 135 now, which he wasn't doing as a younger player. He's got a bomb of a serve, and he's pretty even off both wings. He brings a good offense, and he brings good consistency. It's just he's not a great mover, and he probably never will be, and he doesn't have great variety either. Fritz is my top guy with an eye on Opelka and Nakashima.
Where would you put Tommy Paul? Would you put him in the JJ Wolf Nakashima or the Tiafoe Fritz Opelka?
I want to say I think he's a little bit further along and a little bit older. I want to say he's like 22 or something like that. So I think he's closer to Opelka. I mean, in the long run, if you're going to ask me out of Tommy Paul, who I like that you mentioned because I did forget about him, Tommy Paul, Opelka, and Fritz, who will have the highest career ranking? I would say Opelka. But I think it's going to be slow and steady progress for him. And I think we'll see him climb the ladder. And, he needs to improve his forehand, I think, is the number one thing for me. But I don't think he's not going to be shot out of a cannon. He's not going to fly up the rankings quickly. I think has to bake, like a lot of these big guys do, and slowly kind of round out his game.
I honestly, when you said Fritz is not a good mover, it made me think what Americans are good movers. I think Tommy Paul is a really good one. Tiafoe's obviously very athletic. Nakashima is sneakily very well moved on the court as well. Opelka, in my mind, is actually a better mover for the size that he is than some guys on tour that may have a smaller stature.
Yeah, well, I definitely think he's a better mover than John Isner.
Oh, 100. Everyone's better than him. Everyone's a better mover than John Isner.
Which is a great place to start. I mean, Opelka, the serve, again, that's not at an Isner level yet either, but I think it probably will be at some point. And that's a shot that it generally takes a while for a player to reach the apex of their serving potential. Yeah. Right. So I think that's a good thing for Opelka. It means that there's nothing to be worried about. If you're saying, okay, can Riley make the top 15 or the top 10 later in his career? For a lot of players, you might be looking at your watch and thinking, okay, well, when's it going to happen? If you're not in there by the time you're 24, then there's something missing. But for a player like Opelka, I really think his prime might come later. And 28, 29 years old. Okay. And that might be the best parts of Opelka's career because he's not gonna have a very physically taxing game, and he's just got some technical things that I think over time are going to kind of round out. And then just have the spot serving. You're just going to become a smarter server. You're going to hit your spots better. You're going to mix it up better. And I think at some point Opelka will have a serve reminiscent of John Isner's.
I agree. And we saw glimpses of that when he won Delray Beach last year. And you saw how he played against Nishioka and how well he was able to use that serve. And the pinpoint accuracy, he really does need to improve, because with his height, he does well hitting hard serves and hitting his spots, but it's the consistency level of making those first serves compared to just wailing at them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'd also say that the kick serve.
Mm-hmm. He needs to utilize that a lot more.
Yeah, and that's something that John, Isner's not only has the best first serve in tennis, he's got the best second serve in tennis, because his kick serve bounces about 15 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough to deal with, and Opelka should probably try to make his kick serve as dominant as his slice and his flat.
That's good. I like that, because for the server, it's obviously, if you guys have seen my videos, I double fault almost every other serve I have. So it would be nice to learn something to be 7 foot tall, like Riley Opelka, to be honest.
You didn't hit any second serves against me, though, Phil.
No, I didn't have to. That's the problem. It just declined after that. That was you talk about apex. That was the apex of my serve. And then it just went downhill from there. Oh, I wish I had that serve. So my next question for you, kind of going north of the border, we're going to Canada. We're going to be talking about someone that we all know has potential. We all know that he's here. We all know that he has the ability to be better than he is. Felix Auger-Aliassime. Will he win a title in 2021?
Yeah, I think he will. I'm not from the very start, I have brushed aside the notion that the 0-6 in tour level finals is something to really ring the alarm bells on, because I don't think any of the losses outside of maybe the first couple, I think one was like to Laszlo Jera and
in Rio, right?
What's that?
In Rio, he had a really bad loss.
Yes. But no, so his first couple were against players who, at least at this point in time, you'd expect him to beat. But a lot of those finals are losses to players who are better than him, or at least at the time. I mean, you look at like a Gael Monfils, the way he was playing in Rotterdam when Felix lost that final. I mean, Monfils is the favorite going into that match. So I think that what he needs is kind of a good draw, and he needs to face someone in the final that he can really, maybe not play his best and have those nervous moments and still be so much more talented than he can still beat. So I do think he'll win a title. But with that being said, I hope that his progress in 2021 is more evident than it was in 2020. It might be the most fair thing to do to give a mulligan for 2020 and the fact that things were so wild and disjointed. But with mulligan aside, I thought that FAA didn't have a very productive year in terms of improving on some of his weaknesses, limiting the errors, going for less on his forehand, practicing patience, improving the backhand all around, and limiting the double faults. All of those things were areas that I was going into 2020 hoping that FAA would begin to show improvement on. And I was, all in all, some very impressive performances at the US Open aside, I was a little bit disappointed in FAA's progress.
What surface do you think he'll win it on? Because he seems to be good on all surfaces from the progress that he has shown so far. If you were to say hard court, grass, or clay, which one do you think he is most likely to win his first title on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of like him on clay best, where he can just use the forehand, where he can find more forehands because he has more time to run around. I think one thing that has gone pretty low key, Felix, is how better his forehand is than his backhand, and he's not in those players that you throw out there as having the kind of weak backhand that you want to attack, but he probably should be. And I think the more forehands he can find, which has the potential when his forehand is on, it's probably in my top five best forehands in tennis.
Wow,
up there with Nadal and Federer and Rublev and Thiem. I would put Felix when it's firing. I would put it all the way up there. So that's why I kind of like him on clay where he can find more forehands.
Oh, when he can run around, just have more time to be patient with it too, which is actually what his game really needs. Because do you think he rushes with his game a lot?
I think his targets are oftentimes just unbelievably aggressive. And, I'm seeing him miss forehands long or miss forehands wide, which are on balls that he's connecting with the ball in the middle of the strings. He's hitting the ball perfectly. And when you're missing those shots, it just means you're going for too much, and again, the clay also slows down the ball. It gives you a little bit more time to hit at more precise targets. But I don't think that he's a patient player right now from the baseline. And for some players, I'd say that's okay. That's how you need to play. Speaking of John Isner, speaking of a Jan Lennard Strufer, a player with limited movement who needs to end points quickly. Felix is not that guy. He's a tremendous athlete. He's an awesome mover. So why is he so desperate to finish points so quickly? And then I'll just add on one more thing, which is that not only do I find his targets overly aggressive, I often find them to be the wrong targets.
Okay.
There was a big point against Tennis Sandgren in Australia that sticks in my mind when Sandgren I think he was down a match point to Felix, and I think Sandgren ended up winning this match. He did. Felix had an approach shot, and Sandgren was 15 feet behind the baseline. And Felix stepped into the forehand approach shot and hit it into Sandgren's forehand corner about 2 inches in front of the baseline. And Sandgren was able to defend. Why are you hitting it deep? Sandgren is 15 feet behind the baseline. Hit an angle. Don't go for the baseline. Go for the sideline. A bad drop shot would have been a winner, Phil.
I was about to say, just put it in the middle of the service box. That's all you need to do from that angle, because and it might just be the help that he's been having with Tony Nadal that can have him move forward, because recently he split with his longtime coach. Now he's training with Rafa at the Nadal Academy in Spain with his uncle. And if they were to partner together, I would actually kind of see that partnership work well because of that discipline that he might need and smarter shot making for him to take that game to the next level.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting because I think, one of the pillars of Spanish tennis is just, it's very, 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 very simple. No mistakes.
Exactly.
Don't mess up. Nothing easy. And I think that's a mentality that, again, I think Felix has the abilities to implement.
I 100% agree. Now, and before we get off this topic of Felix, do you think Dennis or Felix will have a better career by the end of it? Shapovalov, I should say, for those of you listening.
Right. For now, if you're going to ask me who's going to finish with the higher ranking in 2021, I actually like Dennis.
Okay. Career-wise, who would you put?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Look, now Felix is the better athlete, which is the main thing that's making me hesitate here. But, I'm going to go bold here, and I like that you asked this, and I'm going to say Denis Shapovalov. I think that it's not quite fair. I don't know. I understand, because what Felix accomplished at his age is spectacular, it is actually beyond what Novak Djokovic accomplished at that age. It is beyond what Roger Federer accomplished at that age. So I get all that. But again, that's why this is a bold prediction. I actually think Shapovalov could have the better career. And look, improving is hard. You know,
Yes.
some of the best junior players in the world, the number one players, just don't continue at that level. So every single step is a challenge. Nothing is a given.
Yeah.
So for Felix, this next step from a top 20 player to a top 5 player, that's not a given. It's going to be hard. And Dennis faces the same thing in front of him. And right now, a lot of the things I'm seeing from Dennis are more impressive than the things I'm seeing from Felix.
100%. 100%. And you kind of stepped into the next topic, which is the next gen of players that are performing at such a high level right now. And those that I'm talking about are the Carlos Alcaraz, the Brendan Nakashimas, the Musettis, the Sinners, all these players that are young and on the come up, I should say, because Alcaraz probably had the best challenger season ever in 2020. But I wanted to ask you, who do you think is going to have the best season as a next-gen player? Who's going to be the young guy that's going to have the best season that's, let's say, under the age of 21?
I think it will be Yonex Sinner, which is not the out-of-the-box choice here. Ball striking is so special.
It's so clean.
Yeah, it's really just, it's the kind of thing you can't teach, you know, and you see it. And that's the kind of thing that I think you got to look for. I mean, when you're watching, you know, Roger Federer play, there's something he has, everyone can see it, that nobody else really has. It's kind of inaccessible. Now, Sinner's it's not the same thing. It's a different thing. It's the way the ball jumps off his racket, a level of pop that Yonex Sinner has off the ground. That thing, I just don't know that I've seen that. It
Really?
seems different. It feels different.
Okay.
It feels a little bit different, especially mostly off the backhand. You know, I'm seeing the pace that comes off his two-hander. I think that's fairly special. I think it's fairly unique. Now, Alcaraz, I love. I think that he's looking so complete and so strong, but I just want to see a little bit more. I'm not quite ready to make any declarations.
Did you, because you were recently on, or not recently, but most prominently you were on the Cracked Racquets show, we're summing up the 2020 season with Gruskin, and I don't remember if you said Alcaraz was your newcomer of the year. Was it?
For 2020?
For 2020.
So when I did my awards show, I made, let me get this right, I made Andrei Rublev Most Improved.
Okay.
So, but Sinner needed an award, so I made Sinner the newcomer of the year. I kind of look at my awards show as a tour level awards show.
Okay. Yeah. Just soul tour level. Got it.
Right. So to me, Sinner was at the tour level, the newcomer of the year, and Alcaraz was at the challenger level, clearly the newcomer of the year. But yeah, I think the way Alcaraz moves, the way he hits his forehand, it is such a contemporary game. It is, and I think one thing that I'm still missing that Alcaraz might have, you know, and all of these new players from Tsitsipas to Zverev to Medvedev, the one thing that I'm still kind of missing is someone who plays exceptional defense and exceptional offense in one package. It's something that more than anyone, I think Nadal, Murray, and Djokovic were the first to really bring that to baseline tennis, to modern baseline tennis. And I'm still missing that. And I think Alcaraz might be that guy.
I agree, because a lot of people, when he first came onto the scene, said he might be the next Rafael Nadal. And I was very hesitant, but then after seeing him practice at Indian Wells with Juan Carlos Ferrero as his coach, one of the greatest clay players ever, I should say, and seeing him, he grew a lot this year too, physically wise. And seeing him win 3 challenger levels within, what was it, a month or like such a short amount of time. And he actually might be the real deal, beating all these challenger records, like you said before, that Roger, Rafa, and Novak never really accomplished. But that doesn't mean he's going to be super successful on the tour level. That's the devil's advocate way of looking at it.
Sure. Right. Well, but here's the thing. Now, you mentioned his physicality, and he still kind of has that junior's body. Now, it's a good junior's body. He's strong. Don't get me wrong. But when he played Albert Ramos Vinolas in, I think it was Rio. 31-year-old Spaniard tour veteran Albert Ramos was clearly, there's a man. And then you look at Carlos Alcaraz, there's a boy.
There's a child.
And the fact that Alcaraz can go 3 sets and win that match
as a child,
that means that is a crazy talent gap.
Yeah.
I don't mean to hate on, Ramos Vinolas, but that means that there is a significant talent gap there, that the boy body can beat the man body, right? That means, when that boy becomes a man, what are we going to have? A monster.
A giant monster. Because he kind of reminds me of the same body type as someone we just mentioned, Felix Auger-Aliassime, because he's tall, he's very strong, and he just looks like a veteran, almost like a veteran at such a young age with the physicality that he provides on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of these matches, he's showing a lot of fitness and a lot of endurance. He's winning in 3 sets. Even on the Challenger Tour, he's clearly he's different from Yannick Sinner because I think that movement-wise, he's way ahead of where Sinner was at the time. So
100%. I totally agree. Now that we've talked about all the next gen, most of the next gen, I should say, and all the young guys, now it's time to get to kind of the meat and bones of this episode, which is the big 3. And kind of dipping our toes into it here is, what is the over-under someone outside the big 3 wins more than 1 major?
I think my number for this is higher than most, because I've seen 1 thrown around, and that to me is too low. I have it either at, I probably have it at 1.5.
Okay.
Closer to 2.
Really?
Than 1. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, if I'm an odds maker, and let's see, I got to give, I don't know what the tax is, but I'm gonna have it at 1.5. But I'm gonna have the over for slams outside of the big 3. I'm going to have that juiced at like 130. And then I'm going to have the other side with a bit of a better price. That's how I'm setting those odds.
Yeah, I like that prediction because we saw it was actually possible at the US Open last year. And we saw it at the Australian Open with team as well. Well, doing half of it being 1 out of the big 3 and then losing to the other. It's just hard for me to see. And I think I think that's the most common number you can say, because when I think about it, Rafa, as long as Rafa's breathing, he's winning the French. I feel like there's no doubt in my mind that that's already 1 slam gone to the big 3. The US Open might be the only major I don't see a clear winner at, just because Australia and Wimbledon are so dominated by certain players.
Yeah, and New York has been that tournament, I think, which has provided the opportunities for the young player. And I think that most of that has to do with where it is in the calendar. And I
Yeah.
just think I think you have Nadal banged up. I think you have Federer banged up at that time of the year. So that's provided opportunity. A little slow for Djokovic these days. I think Novak would rather the slick, faster Rod Laver Arena courts in Australia than the windy, slower kind of Arthur Ashe conditions. So I think that makes sense.
Mhm.
I just think Dominic Thiem is a problem at this point in time,
He
a
has
big
to be.
one. Yeah, he's got a winning record in his last 10 matches against the big three. I don't have it exactly, but he's beaten them more than he's losing to them right now. So team is going to be very, very much in the mix, in the fold. And outside of him, I think this is mostly a Dominic Thiem problem that the big three have.
Yes.
But, then there's a lot of players who don't have it at the moment, but they could. I look at Stefanos Tsitsipas and Alexander Zverev as players who mentally are not there and not ready, but tennis-wise, if they click above the shoulders, they could be really, really dangerous. And then Daniil Medvedev is someone who I look at. For him, the conditions are a big deal, and the conditions need to be correct. But he's someone who's gonna bring it. He's gonna be a gamer. He's not gonna shy away from any competition. So if he's moving well on the grass, or if the draw is good for him in Australia, he can be a problem as well. So yeah, I think it's 1.5. Novak.
Okay.
We'll see how he looks. Okay,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
I guess the question with Novak, and we would have gone here anyway, is are we going to get the pre-hiatus version of Djokovic or the post-hiatus version of Djokovic in 2020 terms?
Yeah. And it seems to me, which is kind of the next question for you, is out of the big three, who's going to have the most majors? And I think personally, I don't want to see anyone but Roger to do it because, as I showed David before, where's my candle? My sister got me a Roger Federer candle for Christmas for the holidays. So
That's unreal.
I was shocked by it. But for those guys, I think Rafa is definitely, I think, going to take 2 out of the 4 at least. Novak might have 1. So I think Rafa's going to have the more majors in 2021, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I would still give
It's
the
hard.
French. No, well, I think the reason it's hard is because the French feels like a freebie, and you kind of give it to Rafa. Then none of the others feel like a given. But
Yeah.
I still give the edge to Djokovic, and
Okay.
I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt heading into 2021. I think the Olympics are a big motivator for him, and
That's
motivation
true.
is really, really important, as we've seen throughout all of these greats' careers. From Pete Sampras trying to break the record for consecutive years at number 1, to Andy Murray trying to win Wimbledon and Roger trying to win the French. Motivation's a really big deal. I think Tokyo has Novak in a really motivated spot. I think when the Olympics got canceled in 2020, I think it might have set him back emotionally. So I am kind of expecting, and I have an open mind that it won't be like this, but I'm kind of expecting Djokovic to be at the level that we saw at the beginning of 2020, at the beginning of 2021. And I'm kind of all of the issues we saw with Djokovic, the decreased shot tolerance, the overuse of the drop shot, the second serve inconsistency. He was not at the level that he really needs to be after coming back, despite winning 2 Masters 1000s titles. He just wasn't there. I think he's going to be better than that next year. That's my hunch, and I think if anyone's going to win 2 out of the big 3, I think it will be Novak.
So are you saying he will end 2021 as the number 1 player?
That would be my prediction.
That would be your prediction. If you were to pick someone outside of the big three to have the biggest push for a top 5 finish or a top 3 finish, who would it be?
Such a tough one because, and this is probably, for me personally, my, I don't know if this is true. Okay, I'll just say this. I'm so intrigued by the race between Rublev, Medvedev, Zverev, and Tsitsipas. Who's going to have the best year out of those 4? That's a tough question.
It really is.
That's a really tough question. I mean, what do you think?
Since 2020 was such a kind of an asterisk year, and we never really got to see the full schedule and see how well they were going to do, but somehow Rublev pulled it out of his ass and won 5 titles and was top 10 in the world. I don't you've mentioned this before on other podcasts and other channels of you don't know if it's going to correlate to the next year, but the momentum's there. Tsitsipas needs to win something big, and I think his motivation is there out of everyone, because Zverev proved to everyone that he can get to a Grand Slam final at the US Open against Team. Tsitsipas has yet to do that. Yeah, he beat Roger at the Australian Open, but can he beat Rafa? Can he beat Novak is the next big question. So I think Tsitsipas, I would have to say Tsitsipas. I'd have to give it to him to make that push because of his motivation to be better than the guys that have already proved themselves in the past year. Medvedev last year, Rublev this year, Zverev this year. So it has to be the Greeks' turn, right?
Hey, I love the upside there. I always have. I get some crap for it, honestly, when he doesn't win, and people say like, Gil, like how's your boy Tsitsipas? Look,
he's good.
The guy, he has. There's a level that he can reach, and I'm very confident in that level. If he can get there, but I'm confident that it's available to him. I'm confident that is, I'm confident in the tennis that he's capable of. Let's not forget, he took Novak to 5 sets in the French Open semis and then suffered an injury in the 5th set and couldn't really compete. Not saying he would have won that 5th set, but I think he's going to be a real problem on clay. And if he plays the big points like he plays the 2-all, 15-all point, that doesn't seem to matter, he is going to win some really, really big matches in 2021. If I were to tell you who am I most excited about if everything goes right and who can make that push, I'm right there with you with Stefanos Tsitsipas.
I like that because and I have to touch on this because I feel like I have to say it every time, but Zverev at 23 years old, the amount of pressure that we've put on him since he arrived after his 2017 season really says a lot about how much we expect out of everyone at such a young age. So having these guys make breakthroughs at their early 20s rather than their teenage years says a lot about the development of players rather than how dominant the big three have been, because it's like you said with Opelka, it's going to probably be a slower progression than it is for such a quick start for these young players.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually did see some good progress from Zverev at the, now I always take indoor hard court in the fall with a grain of salt because we've seen how misleading that. Yeah, well, and we've seen your Jack Sox and your Grigor Dimitrovs kind of tear it up that time of year.
And catching off.
Hatching off, and that can be fool's gold.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what Zverev, let's see what he looks like. But major progress with his forehand, which had always been a shot that I've just not loved for his entire career. I've always thought it's too loopy. It's not assertive. I think that he's let players get away with dropping the ball short and he's not punishing balls that deserve to be punished on the forehand side. And really, I saw the opposite of that at times at the U.S. Open. Mainly, he had to get down 2 sets to love before he could show that. But I saw that at times at the U.S. Open, and I saw it big time the 2 weeks in Cologne.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see what the 2021 season has in store for us as fans and for journalists and for media, because look, we're not going to be able to travel as much anymore. We're not going to be able to talk to these players face to face. We're not going to be able to read them. We're going to have to judge everyone through a screen and through the television. So I hope everyone's staying safe. Thank you to Gil for joining me for today's episode on the channel. So I really appreciate it to you guys following. If you want to go check out Gil, check out his Monday Match Analysis. He's one of the best in the game when it comes to breaking down tennis. So make sure to go subscribe to him. Are you at 10,000 yet, or are you close?
No, I'm approaching 8.
8. Well, let's get him to 8,000 subscribers before we hit that 10K mark. And I hope you have a great day, Gil. Hope you stay safe and wash your hands.
Thanks, Phil. Always fun. Always fun. Love chatting with you anytime.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Take care, guys.